Hi guys, this is Pavi G with his preview for Wimbledon 2026. I hope all of you are keeping well, and if you're in the UK and Europe, keeping cool. It's been a really hot couple of weeks, unseasonably hot couple of weeks, and that's one of the reasons why my big beard has come off. I've tried to keep as cool as possible, but I hope you're all keeping well. So yeah, just really wanted to go on from obviously the French Open was a success for me in terms of Mystic Pav's predictions, which of course will be back for Wimbledon. I was one of the very few people in tennis that commented on the game that thought that Yannick Sinner was not going to win French Open. He was the 1-5 favorite, a really hot favorite. I explained my reasons why I didn't think he would win the French Open, and lo and behold, he went out in the second round against Cerundolo, where his mind, body, well, everything just seemed to collapse, didn't it, in the heat? We don't really know what's going on there, but I wasn't surprised, to be honest. I thought something like that could happen. I also thought it was too early for Djokovic. Obviously, Djokovic, I know, has had a shoulder injury, which I know was giving him trouble. I think he only played Rome to get a little bit of a competitive match prior to the French Open. And the French Open for me was just about getting some competitive games, and he did really well. He had a great match against Pericard, against Royo in the second round, and then obviously the match of the tournament in the French Open, 5 hours against Joao Fonseca. That really could have gone any way, but Djokovic just struggled a lot in the heat towards the end, which is understandable. A player half his age just looked a little bit more fresher towards the end, and Djokovic just couldn't get those 2 or 3 extra points, which is all it was to win that match. But in hindsight, I think that worked better for Djokovic because I said at the start of the tournament for French, I didn't think that he would go on and win that tournament because he didn't have that match as he was still coming off the shoulder. And that what enabled him for French Open is the perfect preparation for Wimbledon. He got 3 really good matches in. It then gave him that extra week to recover for Wimbledon. And my concern always with French Open and why I didn't really want Djokovic to play prior to Rome at this earliest part of the season. I think he had to play to get the games, but is because of the turnaround from the French Open to Wimbledon is very short, just a couple of weeks if you go right to the final. And I think that is not good. And I've always said that Wimbledon is going to be Djokovic's best chance. But we'll go on to Wimbledon and my predictions for Djokovic. But really pleased there. The French Open as a whole, obviously, I actually picked the winner, Alexander Zverev, as well. So he won his very first slam. A lot of people were laughing at me when I said Zverev was gonna win his first slam at French Open, but clay has always been his best surface. I didn't think Sinner and Djokovic were going to be winning the French Open, so Zverev for me became the natural choice. I know he struggled mentally to get over the line. I think it was his fourth time in the final, and he finally got it done. So really pleased for Sasha Zverev, a great guy, and obviously it wasn't a good tournament for the woke and the sanctimonious and the establishment because then Russian Mira Andreeva won the women's one, which was also my tip. So both of my tips for the women's and men's came through in the French Open. So Mystic Pav was definitely on form, but I was really pleased for Mira Andreeva. The French Open I think was a bit bonkers for me in that you had a lot of Ukrainian players who were just literally putting pot shots against Russians like they were just they weren't human beings, and it seemed to be allowed in press conferences. They were accusing Russian players of all sorts, and I just think that was not cool, and that kind of everything that happened in the French Open. It was quite a controversial one. Obviously, it started off with Naomi Osaka holding a party for black only tennis players. Now you can imagine the uproar if a white player, I'm not going to name any names, any white player just said, yeah, we're going to have a party for white tennis players only. And Naomi Osaka's excuse was that she believes that white only parties happen to this current day in tennis. I don't know. I'm brown. Do I get into any of those parties or we just set aside? But the whole point is that, we're trying to, it's 2026. You should see everyone for being a human being, not what race they are, not what religion they are. Just treat everyone the same. And you're going to get good people and bad people from whatever community, whatever race, whatever color, whatever religion. You've got to treat people on merit. So yeah, you probably saw some of my rants over that, and you saw some of my rants over Ukrainians targeting Russians. Again, these are just human beings. A lot of them were targeting Diana Schneider and Mira Andreeva, who in the end were the finalists. So it was kind of poetic justice, really. But if you look at the age of these, Mira Andreeva's 18, Diana Schneider's in her early 20s. These are young people, they're human beings. And to be targeted in press conferences by some Ukrainian players, I thought was outlandish, and I was shocked really that the WTA and the French Open would allow that to happen. But that's what it was, and French Open I think was a real eye opener for the establishment because there were so many empty seats. Apart from the Djokovic's matches, which was rammed, we all saw there were so many empty seats throughout the rounds, not just in the women's but men's as well. There was a lot of people that were have started to make statements here, and a lot of the times these people will come back at the end of the tournament and say, yeah, we had record breaking sales, but they don't tell you that a lot of those sales are actually going to sponsors and corporates and influencers, not to actual fans. And a lot of the tickets that go to sponsors, they don't bother going because they're just, well, we get free tickets, we can pass it on to someone if we can, we're not too bothered if we can. And I think that's a sign of the times. I think a lot of the fans have had enough of all the bullshit, and are starting to now vote with their feet, really. And there was a lot of numbers there. So that was the French Open summary. It was an interesting French Open, as I said, from day one. There was so much going off, wasn't there? There was a lot of controversy on and off the court, and in the end, Zverev won, Mira Andreeva won the women's, and delighted for both of them, and let's hope they can push on. But right, I'm not going to waffle, which I've already waffled now, but Wimbledon 2026, Mystic Pav's predictions in terms of who's going to do well or not. And let's start off with the favourite for the men's again, and it is again Jannik Sinner. And I am again going to go against Jannik Sinner. So Jannik Sinner is the odds-on favourite again from the bookmakers. That basically means that you hardly get any money at all if you think he's going to win, because the bookmakers think he's a done deal again. Now, he's not as hot as favourite as he was at the French Open because it's on the grass, which I think gives other players more chance because it's not as physically demanding as other surfaces. And also because apart from last year, Sinner hasn't done that well at Wimbledon. Yes, he's the defending champion, but he did get a little bit lucky last year. He faced an injured Djokovic in the semi-final, and then he also got through against Dimitrov when he was losing 2-0. So he had a lot of luck with him. He then played Alcaraz in the final, and Alcaraz didn't look with it at all. So I don't think Sinner is that good on grass. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he moves as well on grass as he can. I don't think he volleys as well on grass as he should. But it's Jannik Sinner, and we know he's a machine. Well, he was until that machine collapsed. Now let's talk about that. So since the machine collapsed, there was a lot of talk about what is going on with Jannik Sinner. Is it a problem with the heat? Is it a side effect of something that he's ingesting? We saw Andre Agassi hammering him, saying, how can a professional player just last for 1 hour, 45 minutes and then just collapse at the first sign of heat or stress? Was it physical? Some people have said it was panic attacks. Some people have said that, he just can't deal with the heat. We don't really know what it was, but Jannik Sinner and his team, they've spent several days in a hospital in Milan trying to figure out what they are. They're not going to tell us what they're doing there or what the outcome is. Their official outcome that they're going to tell the public was that he's had tests to see if there's any reasons for his cramping, and there was no reasons, and it was just fatigue, and he's all fine. But Sinner's come out with those messages saying that he's happy with how everything went. He looks fit and strong as ever in the practice. So we don't really know what's going on there, but let them do what they want. I don't think Sinner is in the right frame of mind mentally to go on all the way to win Wimbledon. I think there could be some truth in the fact that he is having some panic attacks. Now, we know that Sinner only got suspended 3 months when he sensationally negotiated a ban with WADA, which is unthinkable. On his terms, basically, he decided to have the ban in between slams, so he didn't even miss a single slam. So is it a bit of guilt remorse coming over from the panic attack? Is he worried that the truth is not out and it might come out? Is he worried? Does he feel guilty that he sees the likes of Marketa Vondrousova, who's been banned for 4 years for simply not taking a test? So we don't know what's going on in his head. But we don't know his grass court form coming into Wimbledon as well. So he didn't play any grass court tournaments. He normally plays Halle, and he's won Halle before, and that's normally his warm-up tournament. He's played a few expos, but we can't really tell much from expos. So he's coming into the grass court season with just really one match, one win in the last kind of couple of months at the French Open in round one, and then he's going to have those memories of his collapsing at 1 hour 45 minutes. And at the moment, the UK, which isn't known for his heat, is having a really hot summer this year. So there's going to be, whilst the first week looks pleasant, still warm, 24, 25, that is going to really ramp up to the 30s and kind of 30 plus in week 2, according to the forecast. So I think Sinner is really going to really struggle to go all the way here. I think Sinner will do better than the French Open, so I am expecting Sinner to go on to the second week. I'm expecting him to go deep in this tournament, but I do not think Jannik Sinner is going to win this year's Wimbledon, and I'm happy to put that on record again. So who is going to win it? So we look at the second favourite, which is, of course, Novak Djokovic. Now, at the French Open, he was also the second favourite, and I said that I didn't think that Djokovic was ready for the French Open title because it's the most grueling of Grand Slams, and I didn't think he had enough matches coming into that French Open to win it. Now, I predict, Mystic Prav predicts Wimbledon 2026 is going to be won by the 39-year-old Novak Djokovic. Yes, you've heard that right. And yes, a lot of you will probably think I'm crazy, and a lot of you will think I'm biased, but I really think that Djokovic is in some really, really good shape physically and mentally. He's overcome this shoulder problem, which he's had since post-Australian Open. He seems to be over that now. He's also had 3 really good matches at the French Open, so he's got that feel of the match fitness. He knows his fitness is there. He hired Viktor Troicki just a couple of months ago, and I think his purpose for that was to get Viktor working on Djokovic's serve and volley, which we know, and I know because I've watched Viktor so many times on grass courts in the UK. He's a brilliant serve and volleyer. He really is. And why is serve and volley important? Well, it's very effective on grass, but it keeps the point short. And that is the key for Djokovic. Wimbledon is on grass, so overall the matches are about an hour less than clay, 45 minutes less than hard. It's the shortest kind of duration because the rallies tend to be shorter on grass, and serve and volley is going to be really, really key. So I think Djokovic is going to be working on his serve and volleys, and we saw in his exhibition against Tommy Paul, and Tommy Paul obviously was a finalist at Queen, so he's really on form. Djokovic beat Tommy Paul, and in the exhibition, yes, it's on the exhibition, but he looked really, really good. On his press conference yesterday, he said that he feels confident, he feels good, and he feels excited. So, those, if you put those together with the fact that he's already won Wimbledon so many times, if you look at last year, I think last year I was at the match against Flavio Cobolli in the quarterfinal. On match point, he took a really bad tumble, I think it was his hip or abductor or something like that. But he got injured. I knew straight away when he looked to the box that he was in trouble. He was then going to pull out of his semi-final match with Jannik Sinner. Decided to play In hindsight, he probably shouldn't have done, but that's the character Djokovic is. But I do feel that if he didn't have that tumble against Kaboli, he would have won Wimbledon last year. Now, this year, I just think if Djokovic can, fingers crossed, stay fit and not have any tumbles or any injuries or anything like that, if he can stay fit and illness free, then I think he's got a fantastic chance to win number 25 here. And I really think he's going to go on and do it. I've looked at the draw in detail. There's not that many players that frighten me with the projected matches that you got. He's obviously going to start today with Yubing Wei, who's ranked 99. He's not had a great grass court season. He lost to Jan Choinsky, a British player in Nottingham. So, he is someone that Djokovic should ease into in the first round. He shouldn't have any big problems with that. But then the second one is potentially Stefano Tsitsipas. Now, we know Tsitsipas on his day can be any player, but we also know in the last year, 18 months, his form has gone down rapidly. But that is a potentially dangerous fixture. And then potentially, again, he could be facing Yao Sucker. But on the grass, in cooler conditions, I would expect Djokovic to not have the same problems that he did facing Fonseca, whose favourite surface is clay, in that brutal match that they had at the French Open. And then he's potentially looking at Sinner in the semis and potentially Zverev in the final, followed by ratings. Again, I don't fear Djokovic playing Sinner. Djokovic has already beaten him at the Australian Open, and Djokovic has beaten him at Wimbledon a few times. And I think last year's match was an injured Djokovic, so you can't really take much into that. So there is who I think is going to win the men's. Who I think is going to be the next challenger to Djokovic and maybe win other than Djokovic? It is the Americans. So the Americans are really upping the ante on men's and women's tour. You saw Frances Tiafoe win Halle for the first time. American has won Halle. He is in the mix. You've seen Ben Shelton. He's also won a grass court tournament. On grass, I think he can beat any player. He's in the mix. Tommy Paul is always there or thereabouts on grass. I think he's a great grass court player. He's in the mix. If Taylor Fritz can stay fit, he's in the mix. We knew he pulled out of Eastbourne, but he's playing some really, really good tennis after a couple of injuries at the start of the year. So I think any of those Americans could also go on and win their first ever Wimbledon. I think they're going to be the biggest threats and biggest challenges to Novak Djokovic. So those are the rest that I want to kind of keep an eye on. I think they'll have a good run. And going on to the women's side, obviously, the women's, we know every slam is open. It seems to be getting new winners every time. I would love to say that the favourite would win Wimbledon because that's Aryna Sabalenka, and I do like Aryna Sabalenka. But I just think her form's been a little bit up and down. I think she gets a little bit tight these days, which, is not uncommon, but it is a little bit more rare when you've already won slams and you're world number one. But it still seems to be impacting Sabalenka. And it's understandable, she gets a lot of criticism, a lot of vilification. I think sometimes she tries too hard and puts too much pressure on there. I do think Sabalenka is going to be there or thereabouts because she is such a good player, but I think she may struggle to go all the way. So my tips for this year's Wimbledon, and again, they're against, you'll get good prices from these from the bookmakers, but I'm going to go with two Americans, either Madison Keys or Jess Pegula. Madison Keys obviously won her first Grand Slam last year at the Australian Open. Everyone kind of thought that she would then kick on and start winning big tournaments and more slams. It hasn't really materialized. And, when you win your first slam, you come under a lot of scrutiny. There's a lot of media work. There's a lot of PR stuff that comes your way. And I think maybe she got a little bit distracted. But she's just won Eastbourne, and that I saw that kind of that grit that we saw at the Australian Open. And I think Madison Keys' game is really suited to grass. So she is going to be Mystic Pav's tip for the Wimbledon women's title this year, or Jess Pegula, who I think is one of the most consistent players on the tour. You know, she made the final in Berlin. She obviously bageled Arena Sabalenka in their match. She lost actually in the final to Novoskova, but I still think Jess Pegula is there or thereabouts, and she seems to be increasing and improving all the time. So I think those two, for me, are gonna be the ones that will go on and win Wimbledon this year. But it's open, you know. I'm not saying that with a great degree of confidence, but there you have it. There are my tips. I'm hoping to go down in week 2, so I'm hoping to be down at Wimbledon as well, and obviously I'll be covering it on X and YouTube and various social media. So I hope all of you enjoy it. I think it's going to be entertaining, and you know, it's already controversial. We've already seen the big controversy in that the LTA and the Wimbledon decided not to give Dan Evans a wild card, which is sensational considering everything that he's done for British tennis. And it just shows the politics in tennis, because it's done on who you know and who you get, what you say, and that shouldn't what it be. It should be people awarded wild cards on merit. I also didn't think Serena Williams should have got one, and then I got a bit of flack for that. But she showed no interest in playing a grass court tournament. She's not even played a singles match for 4 years, so she's not shown any sign that she even wants to play or compete in singles. But she's got this Wimbledon main draw wild card. She's got a lot of promotion. We saw her promoting GLP weight loss jabs, which has said she's lost 36 pounds in the last year. That in itself just doesn't sit well with me. If she did it naturally and got to the weight and then she played in tournaments, absolutely, she's a legend, the greatest of all time on the women's side, I would say. But the way that she's got there, she comes in there promoting GLPs from her husband's company. She doesn't play any singles matches. She's not played singles for 4 years. She's not played at Wimbledon. She's not won a match at Wimbledon for 7 years to get a main draw wild card. I didn't think she deserved it. Doubles, absolutely. You know, she's been playing doubles recently, and doubles is less physically demanding than singles, but you know, didn't really sit well with me. But you know, she will put bums on seats, which is what it's all about, and you know, we'll see how she goes. I think she will probably win her first match. She's playing against Maya Joint. She couldn't have asked for a better draw. Maya Joint's having a really, really bad season. She's lost her last 3 matches, including a player outside the top 200. She's never won a match at Wimbledon, so she's not particularly good on grass. And Serena manages to draw her in the first round, so you couldn't really have handpicked a much better opponent than that. But there you go. Anyway, so let me know. Let me know who you think's going to win this year's Wimbledon. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. And yeah, let's hope it's a real fun 2 weeks. And you know, there'll be loads to talk about on and off court. And you can follow me on YouTube, Pavi G, and obviously on X, Pavi G. And so yeah. So tune in. I will always keep saying it as it is, and let's hope for a great tournament. Catch you guys later. Stay cool, stay hydrated, take care. God bless.